Today we're going to be looking at 4 different softwares in order. They are AutoCAD, Map3D, Civil 3D, and Infraworks, and seeing what's new with them in the 2025 releases. So first up, we're going to be starting off with AutoCAD. And the first big upgrade is to the Activity Insights. You may or may not have seen this in version 24, but it now includes 3 more activity types and the ability to sort your activities by time, activity user, activity type, or user. If you're familiar with the DWG history, this has also been merged in with the Activity Insights. So if you're looking for that, this is where you'll find it now, as well as the compare version. And additionally, they have made this available from the start screen, which is handy if you don't want to open up the file. So I'm going to jump across into AutoCAD now so that we can have a look at this in action. So you'll find this up in the ribbon by going to the not manage, the View tab, to History and Activity Insights. Here you can see these are some things that I've done to this drawing, including the new ones such as Purge and referencing DWGs. I've got Purge selected, and you can see in the bottom there's now this Activity Properties where you can see some more information about what has actually been purged. And that is the same for on the other ones, as well as our icons at the top so that you can filter those activity types. Now, like I mentioned, if you're in the start screen, there's 3 dots on your file. You can click that and click View Activity Insights. Now we're looking at the exact same thing, except that we didn't even have to open up that file to see it from our start screen. The next change is to the trace and markup. So the new command markup import is very handy as it allows you to import a range of different documents, including images and PDFs, and you can scale and align them in a trace layer. If you're working in Autodesk docs, this is very handy as they will sync across the workspace. You can have one person working in docs making markups to a PDF. Also, there's another person working in the DWG making those files, and they can both be working on it simultaneously and having live updates. The other thing that has been added to the Trace workspace is the Markup Assist, which uses AI to automatically detect a range of different comments that you may see and gives you an action that you can create in your document. A couple of other smaller things is that ref edit command has now been enabled whilst you're in Trace, which will be very handy. And there's also been some changes to the Trace toolbar and the settings, which I will show you as we jump back across into AutoCAD now. So I will just close my Activity Insights now that I'm done with that. And we are going to go to the Collaborate tab for the ribbon, and under Traces, we will pick our Markup Import. Now, my example here is a JPEG image. It would be something, say, if you've gone to site, drawn on a piece of paper, and taken an image. So now we're wanting to bring that in as a trace layer, and then we can make some changes to our drawing. Now you can see it's allowing me to either accept the placement, realign, rotate, or scale. So I am going to align because it isn't quite in the right spot. I just pick 2 points, align them up correctly, and I will allow it to scale, and that's a bit better. So I will accept that now. Now, the toolbar at the top here, you can see looks a little different to what it used to. The trace is in blue, so that you can clearly see you're working right now in Trace. When I click on Drawing, that will become blue, making it very clear that I'm now working on the drawing. These blue squares that you can see here are due to our AI Markup Assist. What that has done is detect different items from our image, and when we click on them, we can see a suggestion of what we may want to do. So text, it gives you the option to add an M leader or M text, and you can also edit that text before you create it. When I click on this rectangle here, it suggests that we should insert it as a revision cloud. And the new option is for the polygonal revision cloud, which will actually follow the shape of that one that was drawn exactly. So that's quite handy. And the final thing to show you here is with the settings. So we're now able to pin the settings open so they won't keep hiding on you. And you can also move it around the screen so that it's out of your way, which is very handy as well. So next up is a hatch command, which has been updated so that you no longer need to have a boundary to make a hatch. There's also been some changes so that you can make rectangles and circles very easily, and you can also hatch along a line and control the width and alignment. So let's go back to our first drawing here, and off to the side here, I'm going to run my hatch command. You can see in the command line that as well as the typical pick internal points and select objects, you've now got the option to draw. With that selected, I can click around my screen. I was not in the correct setting there. Let me just go back to draw. And then I click around the screen and press enter, and I can draw a polygon there, and it's filled with a hatch. If I wanted to draw a circle or a rectangle, I can select that, and using the preferred type of drawing for a circle, I can easily just throw that in there. Now, the other thing is that you can change the mode. So when you're in draw mode, you have the option to choose either area or path. I was in area then, and now I'm going to switch to path. Here I have two changes that I can make, so the alignment and the width. So the width, as you expect, is just the width of how wide your hatching is going to be from the line that you draw. The alignment lets you decide if you want to do center, inside, or outside. Center means that your width will go half on one side and half to the other side of the line that you're drawing, whereas inside and outside, the whole width will be on one side of the line that you draw. Now, whilst you can't change this after you've started, there is a good preview there so that you can double check that you have selected the correct inside or outside. And I can just click in a line, press enter, and now I have my hatching there. So this might be quite useful if we have a look at our office here. If we were to do some painting along this wall, we could trace this wall, and you can see I've done it from the wrong end. So I might just start that again from the other end. I can trace along that wall, and now I've got a hatch off to the side that could show, say, an exclusion area for when we're doing that painting along that wall. So the next thing we're going to talk about is smart blocks. And there's two new changes here. The first is the detect tool, and this uses AI to detect wherever in your drawing there may be repeated shapes that could be converted into blocks. The next command is the bconvert command, which is similar in that you use it when you're trying to convert multiple instances into a block, and it will highlight the multiple instances rather than you having to select them all yourself. So back into our drawing, we can have a look at this. Now, to find that, we're going to go to the home ribbon, and under the block panel, we can run detect. That's going to take a little while, so I'm just going to do the bconvert. I'm going to type that into the command line and hit enter. Now, I'm going to look at these chairs here. So I'm going to select the whole chair. At the moment, it's a collection of lines and polylines, and click enter. Here you can see it has detected 72 other chairs that it thinks that I might want to change, and I do. So now I'm going to say that, yes, I do want to accept all 72 of those. If you didn't want to, you do have that option to select just the one you picked. Here, I can either create a new block for this chair, or if I had an existing one, I could have a look at my block library and select that. But I do not, so I will create a new one called chair, click convert, And all 72 instances have instantly been converted, cutting my time down a lot. And you can see that my detect has finished now, and it has detected 3 sets of objects. So let's review these. The first one is a door, and yet there are 3 doors there. I think I do want to change those, so I can click convert at the top and it'll show up with that same thing. Now I can create a new block called door 2. So I've already got 1 door in there, and those ones have been done. Now this door is slightly different, so it came up as a different one. I don't want to convert that one, so I'll just go to next. And I can close that down, and now you can see that those doors are blocks. A couple more updates in AutoCAD. There's been a new base map integration with ArcGIS. So there's now 5 new map types. I'm not going to show them right now, but I will show them when we get to Civil 3D later. If you are using any files for action macros or data extraction templates, you should be aware that there has been a change to those file types, and there has been some improved file open performance. The final thing in AutoCAD to show you is the Autodesk Assistant. It's up on the top bar here next to the home button. So when I click that there, sorry, I'll just restart that. It will come up here as a chat. And here you can type in any questions and the AI will read all of AutoCAD's help files and try to help you. So I'm going to ask it, how do I hatch a path? Which is what I just showed you. And the AI is going to go and read all of that information that it has available to it and hopefully give me some instructions. And here it has given me some step-by-step instructions I can follow. Sometimes it may also give you a link directly to a help file if it thinks that will help. If that isn't helpful, you can connect with an agent and launch a support case. And that is what's new for AutoCAD. Next, we're going to have a look at Map 3D. First big improvement is to the feature data objects with performance enhancements for very large layer sets. There's also been a new provider, which is GeoPackage, which may be helpful if you'd like to use them. The next big change is to workflow. You can see from the images there, in the background we have the old workflow and in the foreground the new workflow. So let's have a closer look at that. You can see that it now functions more as a design space, and it has had the changes such as the addition of dark and light themes. The icons have all been updated. You can see there's now a search bar for activities, and this new properties panels means that you can change the properties from this form and you don't have to leave it all the time. Next is the changes to the GeoCS assign command. So this one allows you to assign coordinate systems for northing, easting, and also elevation all in one form. And I'll show that again later when we do the Civil 3D section. There's been a couple more quality improvements, such as adding the find layer option to the display manager and some improvements to the split and merge feature commands. Plus, because Map 3D is built on AutoCAD, all of those previous things that I talked about in the AutoCAD section also apply to Map 3D. And now we'll move on to Civil 3D. So there have been a number of improvements for surfaces, including the level of detail setting, which can now be applied to an entire drawing or individual surfaces. You can also set the level of detail as a default in the surface feature settings. And what this allows you to do is improve performance in large drawings by reducing the detail in the surface. There's also been some improvements to zoom and pan performance over your surfaces, as well as a change so that if you're just making a change such as the surface name, the surface will no longer regenerate. So let's have a look at Civil 3D. So in my drawing here, when I select my surface, you'll see that the level of detail has been added to the contextual ribbon. And from here, I can change what is currently a high level of detail to a reduced level of detail. When we have a look over in our tool space and expand our surfaces, we can see we've got two surfaces, and the one that I just changed to a reduced level of detail is the NS, and it has a blue icon which shows you that it is a reduced level of detail. By right-clicking on that surface, I can then change that back to high level, and you can see that that icon changed back again, which makes it very handy. Now, jumping over to the settings, when I go to the feature settings for the surface, I can expand out the surface defaults there and set the surface reduced level of detail to yes or no as a default for the entire drawing. So next, we're going to have a look at some corridors. There's been some performance enhancements to the corridor dialog box, and it's now 3 to 4 times faster to build a corridor. There's also been a new command added that allows you to control whether you would like a faster or slower corridor building, although when you do choose the faster generation, it does reduce the visual fidelity. There's also been some rebuilding of some commands, including the region group editing, split region, and merge region. So let's jump over and build a corridor so that we can see these changes in action. So I'm just going to create a corridor, and here we can see that this box has changed. This form does look quite different now. The first thing to note is that you can add multiple baselines from the beginning. So I'm going to select this picker, and it's going to allow me to choose the alignment, profile, and assembly. So I'm going to choose the center line of this road. The profile is design, and this other, the assembly over here. And there is my first baseline. Now I can go in and add a second baseline. What I'm going to add is the edge of the bitumen on over here, and so that we can control the width of the road. Select my profile, and once again, I'm going to select my assembly. Now I'll just set my target surface and click OK. Now here I'm just going to change the frequencies so that it works a little better around the curves. And now set those targets so that it will try to go and meet that second alignment. So now that I've done that, I will rebuild the corridor. Here it's taking a second to think about it, and it's done. So there you got to see some of those changes to the corridor windows. But now I'm going to type in fast corridor, and you see here is the full wording to get that command running. And you see that my value is 0, sorry. When I change it to 1, I've now chosen to build it more quickly. I'm going to change my profile here so that we can see the difference in the building speed. So by doing that, I have put my corridor out of date. So when I rebuild it, that was a lot quicker than that first time that it built. You didn't notice a huge difference in this such a small corridor, but if you did have a very large corridor, you would definitely notice the difference. So some more improvements for Civil 3D. The Dynamo has been upgraded to 3.0.3, and it also includes a new package manager, which allows you to access your package lists and which packages you have installed all in one location. There's also been the ability to search nodes by category added, as well as a couple of new nodes, and object binding has been updated to now use strings. A couple more improvements. A few commands have been added to the ribbon, including set location, activity insights, and quick inquiry. So as promised, I will show you where the set location is. So from the insert ribbon, we're going to come over to location, and here's the set location button. I'm not going to click that because I want to show you the command GOCS assign. This is what the form looks like, and I will type in MGA 56 for this area, and we've got this handy map here over to the side, so you can zoom in and make sure that yes, this is the correct one for my site, and I can assign that for the northing and easting. If I wanted, I could also assign an elevation here. Now that that is done, I have the geolocation tab available. When I drop down the map, you can see here are 5 new map types that I mentioned earlier. I can select one, and you can see the design now in the context of the surroundings. If I wanted to capture that area, I can use that command there. And now I will have that image available for use even when I turn the map off. The final improvement to Civil 3D is that it now supports .NET 8. If you use add-ons such as Civil Site Design or Stringer, this is great as it allows us to do a lot more and have quicker interactions between those. Finally, we're going to have a look at Infraworks. The 2 main improvements are around bridges and tunnels. Tunnels now have parametric portals, and the Revit family parametric board ring segments is available, as well as the ability to turn on and off cruciform joint avoidance, which means that your joins will not line up and you won't have a weak point in your tunnel. They've also made some changes so that you can hide all of your terrain layers at once. So let's have a look now at a tunnel in Infraworks. So when I select my tunnel here and I select my portal here, we can have a look and see that there are now quite a few different types of portals which weren't available earlier. Now, to have a look at the cruciform joint avoidance, first I wanted to show you how to turn off our surface. So in our surface layers, we're now able to turn off ground surface rather than having to pick each layer. And now that we can see the underground parts of our tunnel, we can select on the board rings. You'll see that seam staggering has been added, and we can turn that on or off and add our seam tolerance. The improvements to bridges mean that we can now analyze custom girders with tendons if you're using any pre-stressed materials in your bridges. And you can also add multiple line beams when you're working in structural bridge design.